No. So we are indeed always on. Is that always necessary? So good morning, everyone. I'm Maël Madon, PhD student in third year in Toulouse. And I'm presenting a work that I've been doing in collaboration with Patricia Lago at the Vrije, Amsterdam. So I hope that this gives another aspect on the three presentations that we had before, including the keynote. So my focus is on people's perception with their devices. So in order to avoid the growth in usage that we observe and that drives the growth of the right graph that you see on this slide. So basically the main overall question is how much digital usage is sufficient? How much is just enough for my use? So if some people like Kate Wareth Donut, it's a bit asking the question, how do we use ICT to stay within the social foundation, having a little bit of ICT for everyone to perform their activities, but do not overshoot the environmental ceiling. So if people want to look more into the definition of digital sufficiency, you can read, for example, this paper of Tilman Zontarius and Lawrence Hilty, but I'm not going to dig into that right now. I'm going to explain you what we did to explore that question. So we did a very exploratory qualitative study. So we needed to zoom in a little bit from that big question that I showed you before. So we decided to zoom on professional usages of digital devices, and in particular in the case of flexible work, because indeed flexible work and the ability to work from home and to not have to move to conferences or to work is a good promise of ICT, of diminishing emissions from the transportation sectors. But this flexible work relies a lot on the cloud. So now our question becomes how much and which cloud usage is sufficient for flexible work. So basically, we thought that first we needed to understand what do we do every day on our computers or phones, and which of those tasks are cloud-based. And then among those cloud-based tasks, which one are perceived as necessary by the people and which one are more superfluous. So in order to collect some data about this, we ran 3 focus groups in the Netherlands inside 2 companies, a very small company and a very small IT company and a large consultant firm. So we gathered in total 11 participants that were of different job position. Out of those focus groups, we had the video recording that we transcribed, and then from those transcripts, we identified codes out of each sentence where was associated a code. And then by discussion between the co-authors, we ended up with 12 themes, and then that all gathered in a code book that is available online as supplementary material for people that are interested. So I told you there are 12 themes, but I'm gonna talk about 5 of them because necessary, superfluous are 2 themes. So one is what we do on our computers, list of digital usage, work settings, necessary, superfluous, and then the tactics towards sufficiency. So the first surprise that we had was that basically everything that our workers were doing were cloud-based. It's probably due to the country where we run the study. It's a very digitalized country, the Netherlands, and also their job position and the tools that they were given by their company to work. But we were thinking that we would see more people still using their hard drive on their computer, but it didn't exist anymore, those people. At the same time, we kind of identified 3 main categories of cloud-based tasks. So first, the tasks that needs interactive, like constant internet connection. For example, when you're editing your Google Doc and where you're in your Zoom meeting, you need your constant internet connection, otherwise it doesn't work. You also have tasks that needs the cloud, but that can be offline and then synchronized to the cloud, and then tasks that are completely off cloud, just only on your local drive. So We thought that first the suggestion towards sufficiency is to move from the first category to the second as much as possible, and then from the second to the third also as much as possible. So we investigated flexible work. So we also wanted to see if in people's experience, they were doing different things, whether they were at home or at work, if we were seeing different patterns there. And short answer, no. Our participants or digital nomads, so their locations were highly interchangeable. People do the same when they are at home, at work, in our case. Thus, we still identified the reasons why they choose to go to work, or when they, for example, they choose to go to work or at a specific location. And once at a specific location, the differences, the slight differences they have in the work that they perform. And one specific work location was different than the others is the case of train, because people do not do online meeting in the train. They tend to focus on, for example, reading emails, reviewing documents, so more individual tasks. And also one participant reported that she actually enjoyed doing that. 1 hour a day. She was commuting by train. So to have this time for her. So we thought that an important thing to go towards more sufficiency in a professional environment is to plan ahead for quality work in the appropriate environment, and also that sometimes constrained environment actually allows people being productive on individual tasks while reducing the digital usage to the essential. All right, we also asked the participants tasks by tasks. Do you think this is necessary? What is necessary in these tasks to understand the nature of the necessariness, if you want? So here we focus on online meeting because that was, for some people, 80% of their time that were spent, of their work time spent in online meetings. So first on the left column, people say that online meeting is great. It saves time. It allows to keep human contact. It's way easier to arrange. Also, they like to have camera to still see facial expressions. But at the same time, they did report that they were having too many meetings, that the meetings were sometimes too long and not efficient anymore, that you tend to have recurring meeting every week with people, but they're not driven by any agenda. And also that you have 50,000 apps for running your meetings, whether it's Teams or Zoom, and this is also not particularly necessary. So I think it's important to understand the nature of the service that is rendered by a task in order to choose best the tools to perform it, and so what should be focused on for sufficient use. The last result and contribution of this work is the identification of what we call tactics towards sufficiency from those focus groups. So we found 48 such tactics. I will present you 4 of them. So one I already talked about: use local off-cloud solutions if the work doesn't need to be shared. For example, at a company level, giving your employee lower quota on the mailbox side to reduce the number of servers that are needed for the mailbox, turning off the video during an online meeting, and also an interesting one, which is putting less restrictions on professional phones, so people do not end up having one personal and one professional phone. All those tactics, we categorized them into categories. I invite you to look at the paper. So one that are directly towards human behaviors, human-oriented, those that are more targeted to the software, so system-oriented, and then context-oriented that are more, systemic. I also want to point out that not all the tactics have the same impact, and that we did not try to quantify that impact, though this is something that we are doing now for future work, but we can't say right now at this point if which tactic is more impactful. So thank you for your attention. In this work, we went and talked to participants, and we were surprised to see that they were both, all their tasks were cloud-based and that their tasks were mainly independent on their work location. We also identified that digital sufficiency had some resonance in them, but that they kind of did not know they needed more concrete suggestions. And also, we ended up with this list of tactics to sufficiency that we want to give for the community to use. Thank you.